Hey everybody, it's on screen, off screen. We've got one more episode this week. Let's hear about all the sports, man.
Okay, so Formula One is what I'm going to start with. We had the China Sprint race weekend.
Mhm.
Oh, to be a Ferrari fan is so heartbreaking. If
Okay,
you watched
they
this
suck.
weekend, you would understand what it means to be a Ferrari fan for all time. So, race weekend happens, and guess who's on pole position? Guess who gets to start from the front of that race? My man, Lewis
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Okay.
Guess who won that race? Showing extraordinary speed and skill. Lewis Hamilton.
Ooh, there we go.
And was there drama and good racing in this sprint race? Absolutely, there was. Then
Okay.
we have regular race. Guess who had the most embarrassing showing out of every team on the grid?
Ferrari.
Ferrari.
Okay, what happened?
Uh, they showed that they had speed and ability in the sprint race, and then they raced and could not pass anybody and was fourth and fifth, and then got passed by Max, and then got disqualified at the end.
Why'd they get disqualified?
Leclerc's car was underweight, and Hamilton's car was too close to the ground. So
Oh,
his plank on the bottom was too thin. So he got disqualified.
interesting. That sucks. Man,
Yeah.
that must be measured by like millimeters.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
To
I'm
be a
surprised they
Ferrari
even
fan, ta-da! You had a great little beacon of hope immediately destroyed from you, bad strategy calls, and then disqualified at the end. And now you're a Ferrari fan. Woo!
that sucks, man. That sucks.
It
Who
does.
won the actual race?
Oscar Piastri,
Who does he race for?
McLaren.
Okay. So that's Lewis left McLaren, right?
Lewis left McLaren to go to Mercedes, and then
Oh yeah,
last
yeah.
year he left Mercedes to go to Ferrari.
Is Mercedes doing well at all now, or are they
Yeah.
kind of like, okay,
Uh, George Russell took third last week at Australia, third or fourth this week. And Kimmy started 17th last week and ended fifth, and started seventh and finished seventh this week.
well, does this say that Lewis has lost it at all?
No,
Okay,
no, because he did have the sprint race. It was his first ever sprint win.
okay,
Ferrari showed that they had pace, right? If they didn't, they would have finished fourth, fifth, like really solid result. Um,
yeah. And sprint race versus long race, like how what distance are we talking? What's the difference?
Sprint race is one third distance, and there's
Okay.
no pit stops.
Oh,
So a
so
sprint
you're just
race
going.
is all the cars on the track going. They usually pick the tracks with the most overtakes
Okay.
so that there's exciting racing going on, and then long races full distance and has
Which
pit
which
stops, one
which one do
mandatory.
you like better?
The sprint or the race or
Yeah, the
what track?
sprint or the long race.
The long
Actually,
race.
long race is better. And then, is there a consensus on fans on which tracks are the best?
Yes.
Which ones are considered the best of the best?
Coda, which is the Austin track
Okay.
here in the United States. San Paulo is a common favorite. Spa is a common favorite, and Silverstone is a common favorite.
Do you have a personal favorite?
Spa, or not Spa, San Paulo is my
San
personal
Paulo.
favorite, and
Just
Coda is my number two.
okay. More overtakes, or what is it that people like?
Exciting racing. I love the track layout. It's world really well balanced. It's an actual track. I'm not a big fan of the street circuits. Um,
Okay.
you usually always get exciting races at these tracks because there's not like a clear benefit to just being fast or just being good at cornering. There's a
Okay.
good balance between the two. So that's why I like them.
Very
Plus,
cool.
in my sim when I was doing that, they're fun to drive. They're not boring at
Very
all.
cool.
Some
So you get a
tracks are boring.
balance of all of the different skill sets. So you're really going to see what the drivers are capable of.
Yeah, and it makes it more balanced. So like it's at San Paulo, my favorite. There's enough tight S's that some cars excel during tight turns. So they
Oh, so
might
not even just the
overtake.
driver, but the actual car
Yeah,
design.
right. So
Cool.
your car might be extraordinarily good at fast speeds, and mine just might be extraordinary at cornering. So we'll be
Okay.
going through the tight sections, and I will be so much faster than you. It's ridiculous. But then it might still be hard to pass you because we get on those straights and you just take off and go far. And there's no clear which one is best, who whose car might be best, which driver might be able to do the best with what they've got, all that kind of stuff. So
Very cool.
very very cool stuff. It was a very good race weekend. I really enjoyed it. Um, Red Bull's a whole big mess, which I am loving. It's so great.
Is it
Uh,
that bad?
yeah, so Max Verstappen has been third place and fourth place in
Yeah.
the two races that have happened so far. His teammate Liam Lawson has been 17th and 20th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he's doing so bad that my choice to take that seat, Yuki Tsunoda, is rumored to be taking the Red Bull seat in the third race.
Which is this next one, right?
Hmm.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
so they're imploding. And my favorite part about Yuki driving the Red Bull, no matter what happens, Red Bull looks stupid, and I love it.
Because Yuki should have been in that seat already.
Because if Yuki does well, everybody who said Yuki should have gotten the seat was right. Red Bull is incompetent for choosing Liam. Like, not just stupid, completely incompetent for choosing Liam in the first place. If Yuki doesn't do well, then the Red Bull is an undrivable piece of garbage, and it's the car, not Max. Well, it's
All right.
Max and the car combined. So it takes away from Max's pedigree a little bit from being so dominant
Okay.
because it's basically like saying we built the perfect car for Max, but no other driver on the grid had the perfect car for them. So
And no
Red
one
Bull
else.
made a completely undrivable car except by one of your drivers. Stupid. Max
That is
got the
fun.
perfect situation where he just happened to get his perfect car, and Red Bull is stupid. And I like rooting against Red Bull because they're so stupid. They're so incompetent and they suck.
And anything that makes Red Bull look dumb, we're going for. I freaking love it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
uh,
I hope that he races in this next race. That'd be sweet.
I hope so too. It's pretty close to confirmed. So a week and a half from now, Yuki is probably going to be in the Red Bull. Liam's probably going to be in the Racing Bulls. Stupid naming scheme. Seat again. What does
Is
that
that
do for
the
Liam's? It's the junior team. What does that
okay?
do for Liam's mentality of your team bet on you and then gave up on you in two races? Maybe he's relieved because he's getting the easier car to drive. Maybe it feels like you're just a sack of meat to these people and you're never going to succeed. And I am for it because Liam also sucks as a person. Um, Kimi Antonelli, the Mercedes driver, the rookie, he won driver of the day in China. And there was a very funny dialogue between Kimmy and Toto Wolff, the team principal, about why he won Driver of the Day. Because Kimmy was like, "Me? Why? I started seventh. I finished seventh. I didn't do anything in this race." And Toto Wolff's like, "I think it's because of your looks," and uh, insinuated that a bunch of girls have a crush on him, so they all voted for him. Uh, I voted for him because first place was in first place the entire race and didn't do anything extraordinary. Second place was in second place the entire time, didn't do anything extraordinary, and had brake failure, so they kind of had a down race. Third place, same kind of thing. Fourth place, same kind of thing. Fifth place, same kind of thing. Kimmy, as a rookie, has been great in for his second race, which is at a track he never raced at before, and they only got one practice session because it was the sprint weekend. So he did a great job. So I voted for him.
Are there that many women that watch F1?
Yeah,
Really? Oh, that's
yeah.
surprising to me. Honestly,
No,
that's surprising.
ever since Drive to Survive, the market share from men to women in Formula One has gone to from like 10% to like 55% women.
Oh, so like more women watch it than men.
Yeah,
That is shocking to me. I'm genuinely really surprised.
it's between 45 and 55. It's really close to even, if
Wow.
not just slightly skewed one way or the other. It's been massive. Like Formula Academy is happening. A lot of people are getting really into that, which is women driving Formula 3 cars, Formula 2
Okay.
cars. I'm not sure which one, but it's all women drivers. We also have our first ever female uh, engineer to score points in Formula One, which is very exciting for that.
That's
Um,
cool.
there's a lot of beef going on between people about whether women or not can drive Formula One cars. Uh,
Why
some of
wouldn't they
the
be able to?
uh, the big argument is the neck muscles, the physical takes of those G forces take on a body. So there have been
Mhm.
women in Formula One historically.
Okay.
So if we got a woman driver, it wouldn't be the first. But none of them have done well in Formula One. But that was also at the time where there wasn't power steering either.
Okay.
So there was a lot more physical of a toll and clear physical advantage for men. Whereas now, the only physical difference would be the neck muscles. Because power steering is there, the cars are so aerodynamic, it's just the G forces on the neck area.
Okay. I I believe that there are women jet fighter pilots, and I would assume the G forces would be similar
They're
or not or
completely
more.
different.
Okay.
They're like jets and cars both use G forces
Yeah.
as their measuring, but they're
Yeah.
different G forces.
Interesting. Tell me more about
Yeah.
that.
So like in a jet, if you go to 10 Gs, it's uh I forgot what the word is. But in a car, if you go to 10 Gs, it's Newton something, whatever
Okay.
the G stands for. So they're different actual measuring sticks. And 10 Gs in a plane is very different than 10 Gs in a car, even if you were to measure them the same. Because in a plane, you're in space, right?
Yeah.
You're fighting against air and gravity, but there's a lot less gravity because you're 30,000 feet in the air.
Yeah.
In a car, you're stuck to the ground. Literally, those cars stick to the ground, and you've got a lot higher gravitational pull.
So the effects on the drivers are actually higher than on pilots, it sounds like.
It depends, right?
Okay.
Because like a pilot is pretty much always experiencing
Jeez.
3 Gs,
Yeah.
3 to 10 Gs, right? Depending
Hmm?
on if they're turning or banking or braking or whatever.
Hmm?
In a Formula One car, when you're driving in a straight line, you get the acceleration, which is like half a G,
Mhm.
and then you're in a car, right? You don't feel that anymore. But when you're going through a turn at 90 miles an hour, then you feel high pressure G's again. But they're also lateral, they're not vertical. Whereas in a jet or a rocket, it's vertical and lateral. So it's just a different experience.
Different.
It's not fair to say one is better or worse or harder than the other. They're measured differently, they're experienced differently, they're just different.
They're just different. Interesting. That's very cool. I didn't know that. That is interesting. Hopefully, this next race will be great. Um,
I hope
you'll
so.
have
I
to.
hope Ferrari can pull their head out of their ass and at least put together a strategy worth something. Because right now they're losing to Kick in the Constructors' Championship, which is just embarrassing. That is the worst car on the grid, and you're losing to them.
Losing to that one.
Yeah.
Come on. Hopefully, they can
It's
pull it all together. Um, with that, what about March Madness?
such a good week of basketball. Oh my gosh, so many great games. We got buzzer beaters. We have tight games. We have blowouts. We have so much good basketball going on right now, and I'm sick of all the negativity going into March Madness this year because there's no Cinderella story that makes March Madness bad. No, you have great teams ready to engage with each other and create great basketball. That's what you have.
No Cinderella story. What are you talking about?
No 11 through 20 uh, rankings have made it into this part.
Okay, I see what you're
There was
saying because
only
there's like
one number 10.
Arkansas
The rest are like 6 and lower.
beat St. John's, and that was like a major, major upset. BYU's was an upset.
No, it
There
wasn't.
were some upsets.
BYU wasn't an upset.
I'm pretty sure Wisconsin was favored to win that.
BYU was favored. Wisconsin was the lower ranking, which is just talking bad about BYU. Like BYU should have been higher.
Hmm.
But BYU was favored to go in. They led the whole way, and they won at the end.
Hmm.
The commentators picked BYU to win.
Okay.
The statistics said BYU was going to win.
Okay.
BYU won. Now we'll talk about BYU. BYU won in spite of such terrible officiating. I have never been so mad at officiating while winning in my entire life.
Really?
Yes. The joke online right now is BYU was playing 5-on-8 because of how egregious the officiating was in favor of Wisconsin.
Wow. And I've even seen the Wisconsin thing that we were talking a little bit before we started recording about Wisconsin saying they favored BYU. I've seen that, and I don't even care that much.
There are a few
That's nuts.
people who say that the officiating favored BYU because
Yeah.
there was no call at the end, which that wasn't a call. I'm sorry, I know there was contact, but contact doesn't mean foul. That's a play through kind of thing. They let it
Yeah.
play. He airballed the shot. BYU won in spite of the officiating. Okay, that's a very small minority. I've gotten onto some TikTok arguments with people who said Wisconsin had the harder job with the refs, and I literally was making comments like, "What game were you watching?" Because everybody who's a BYU fan was mad at the officiating because they were favoring Wisconsin so bad. Everybody who was a neutral fan was mad that the reffing was so bad in favoring Wisconsin. And even some Wisconsin fans acknowledged that they were favoring Wisconsin. So this
Really?
minority people of diehard Wisconsin fans who think that it was against them are just wrong. The officiating was terrible. I acknowledge it was bad officiating. Um, I made the joke during the game that, wow, I really hope BYU wins in spite of this refing thing because it really feels like the refs are doing everything they can to keep Wisconsin in this game. That's how bad it felt to me. It really felt to me like they were saying, we don't want a blowout, get Wisconsin into this game. That's how it felt to me.
That's how. Wow. That's how egregious it felt. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Now, I've had some time to breathe, and I myself have been a ref before, and I know that it can be difficult. So here's what I'll say in favor of the refs. It was a very chippy game where it was very emotional, and both BYU and Wisconsin were crossing lines. There was a point where a Wisconsin player stepped out of bounds to get into a BYU player's face, and the BYU player shoved him off and then passed the ball inbounds. And I had an interaction with one of my basketball friends about this, and I was like, that doesn't look good for BYU. Wisconsin absolutely crossed the line because if he had just stayed in bounds and been pretending to defend the inbound play and BYU pushed him, not great. You could have still talked trash. But Wisconsin stepped out of bounds to get into the BYU player's face, and then BYU pushed him. So it's a very chippy, very physical. All players involved were very emotional. Right? It's a very chippy game, and I can see the refs calling some of those calls not because they were calls, but because it could have been, and because they're trying to take control of the game and not let it get out of hand. Right? I could see them saying, we can't let this keep going. We have to take control. Fair. However, there were points where BYU was defending, hands straight up, stepping to the side. The Wisconsin player fell to the ground, and they called BYU for a foul.
That's ridiculous.
There was the ejection, which is absolutely ridiculous because BYU player inbounds the ball. Game is incredibly close because the refs made it be that way. He is double teamed. He is twisting and pivoting and trying to keep the defender's hands off the ball like you're supposed to do. He twists, the Wisconsin player hits him, he hits the other Wisconsin player in the below the belt area as a reaction and not in his control. And the refs reviewed it and called it a flagrant 2 foul because they can't prove it was unintentional and ejected him from the game. He made a basketball move in a basketball situation, and the only reason it happened is the Wisconsin player hit the BYU player. You can't get more unintentional than that.
No, you can't. That's ridiculous.
And they ejected him. They gave Wisconsin 2 free throws that put them within 2 points of the lead and the ball, which they went down and airballed. And if BYU had lost this game, I would have been livid because throughout this entire game, it has been entirely Wisconsin favored by the refs. It's so lopsided, it's ridiculous. Like I said, even neutral fans between these two teams are acknowledging how terrible this officiating was.
Hmm.
And most of them acknowledging how in favor of Wisconsin it was throughout this
With
entire game.
bad officiating, is there any consequences for the refs at all besides people being mad at them?
Some will lose their jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, there's stories of refs who uh, lost their jobs or had to go to ref a different conference because they were so biased. Namely, in football, is what I know from where a Pac 12 referee was caught betting and heavily favoring certain teams in his officiating. So he had to go ref a different conference because it was so egregious and obvious. Uh, there is a side storyline where there was a 7-figure bet on the BYU Wisconsin game in favor of Wisconsin at halftime within 50 feet of the referee's room.
Whoa. Whoa.
So there's some questions being raised there.
Who made the bet?
We don't know.
I don't.
The only
Okay.
thing we can know is that it came from the arena within 50 feet of the officiating's rest area.
That's pretty. It's pretty rough. That's a big bet.
That is a big bet
That's a big bet.
from a very suspect position in a
Hmm.
very suspect game that had very biased officiating.
With someone who lost a lot of money.
Yep,
A lot of money. What other games were really great in the last week?
all of them.
All of them were really great.
All of them were really great. Michigan won. Duke. I mean, some of them were absolute blowouts, but
Yeah.
uh, I forgot what it was. The Colorado State game that came down to a buzzer beater. It has the big argument of was it a travel, wasn't it? Here's my take on that.
Hmm?
Was it a official travel according to the rules of the game? Yes. Has that been called a travel ever? Well, not ever. This year or the year before that or the year before that in college basketball or the NBA? No, it has not been called a travel. Not in the NBA, probably ever.
Okay.
So, by rule, was it a travel? Yes. But you can't call it in that situation just because it's a nail biter. You have to call it through the entire game, through the entire season, or not at all,
Which they don't.
which they don't. So, play on. Good win. Colorado State lost. Sucks for them because they were the Cinderella story hope. And they kept it like that should have been a blowout against Colorado State. They absolutely fought for it. They were winning. They probably should have won. But it's more than just that one call, and it's more than just that one moment.
Of the games coming up, which ones are you most excited for?
BYU. I have three brackets, and one is my delusional bracket, in which BYU wins it all. And then I have a mid tier delusional one where Michigan wins it because they're kind of been the underrated kind of team
Okay.
where they made it in, but kind of just barely. But they were kind of on a hot streak towards the end. But, so I was like, man, if they win it, that would be cool. And then a third
Cool.
bracket, which is just practical. Duke is going to win it all because it's them or it's Houston or it's, I forgot the other team.
But you just think Duke's going to win?
Yeah. Everything. If you watch Duke play, they're just so freaking good. And BYU would have to beat them to get.
Yeah.
They're in the same. They're both in the East. So if if BYU wins and Duke wins, they're gonna fight. They're gonna battle each other in the Elite Eight.
Literally, so if BYU wins, which would be from what I've looked at, they're not favored to win, but it's possible. It's not that much of a spread. Then to beat Duke, would it be like this is a miracle? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It would be such a big miracle if BYU beat Duke. Now, if BYU wins and Duke loses, we have a much more favorable matchup.
If there's a upset this week with Duke,
Yeah, which can always happen in March Madness, which is why it's always
it
so
can.
great. Yeah,
That would be awesome.
yeah.
That would be
And
genuinely
I
really cool.
get to find out tomorrow.
You do.
So excited.
The Duke games tomorrow too. Cool.
East plays tomorrow. I'm so excited.
That's exciting, man.
So excited.
That's exciting. It would be cool if it's BYU, even BYU versus Duke would be cool. I looked up BYU's record and they won in like the 50s, but since then this is the farthest that they've come, and
This
that's
is our
pretty cool.
first time in Sweet 16 since 2011.
Yeah, since Jimmer.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty
And
cool.
Jimmer
And
was at the games. That's cool.
that is cool. I saw that.
Yeah.
Um and then it looks like with Jimmer, this is as far as they went too. Like they didn't get to the
Yeah, they lost in the Sweet 16.
who
But
did they
it was a
lose?
very iffy kind of game and a
Oh, was
close one. So it was kind of like what could have been kind of moment for BYU. It
okay.
wasn't like they they got blown out 2011. So
Hopefully they can pull off top eight. That'd be sweet.
I mean the point spread is like 2 points in favor against BYU, but so far commentators, sports analysts, and everybody have picked BYU,
Really?
save for a
Okay.
few. Yeah, they've picked BYU to come out on top. They've just been really, really hot, and it's BYU versus Alabama. Alabama is a very high percentage shooting team. BYU is also a very high shooting percentage team. So basically, it's like saying we're having two teams face each other. Neither of them are very good at defense. It's going to be who can make more threes, is what this game is going to come down to.
Okay.
Guess who set the March Madness record for offensive play in their last game?
I'm guessing BYU.
BYU did, which is
What
why
was
they
the
were
record?
able to win in spite. It's measuring a lot of different statistics. So basically
Okay.
saying nobody has had higher field goal percentage, 3% point percentage, 3 points made, offensive points made, assists. Like nobody has had that combination or higher in history of March Madness.
That's really
There have
cool.
obviously been teams that have had higher 3 point percentage or higher field goal percentage or more free throws made or whatever, but nobody's had that absolutely dominating combination, which speaks to how the officiating was in this game. Because how did
They
BYU
won a
only
record.
win by two with that dominant of a performance if the refs weren't so heavily favoring Wisconsin? I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna try and get over it because we won, and I really should be this sort of a winner. But man, that officiating was really, really bad, and I'm so glad that we're not doing that officiating crew anymore.
Dude, I'm excited. Find out tomorrow. Hopefully BYU wins. That'd be sweet.
It will be great. I'll be a happy, happy, happy person.
That'll be sweet. Well, man, I'll go to my topic. Mine is a book. It's The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I honestly haven't read that many mystery novels. They haven't been my thing,
They're
mostly
also
just because I
usually
really
not
haven't
very good.
tried that much. I think this one is a good mystery novel. It is definitely the Sherlock formula, but they do something interesting and they doesn't ever say this, but it highly clues in that the Sherlock character is autistic. She it's a woman. She has a hard time with all the sensory overload. So the Watson character has this. It's in a fantasy setting. It's a high fantasy setting. The Watson character has this ability to perfectly recall things. So the Sherlock character will send Watson out. He will go and collect all the information. He'll see the place, and then he'll go back and describe everything in detail to the Sherlock character, who then solves these mysteries. The main premise behind the book is you have a wall that is holding back these leviathans. It feels very much like an Attack on Titan kind of aspect. And there's engineers that create better weapons and make sure the wall stays standing. Somebody has poisoned the engineers and caused these tree branches to explode out of their body, and that digs into the wall, weakens the wall, and weakens their ability to face these leviathans. Along with that, there's a very large leviathan that is getting brought into the wall, and they don't know why this is happening. So you have the Watson character that has dyslexia, but perfect recall. And then you have the Sherlock character that has autism type symptoms. And together, their different aspects work really well together. Watson, who has this perfect magical recall, is able to mimic things with his body perfectly. So he mixes up the letters, but when she asks him to write, he can trace the letters, and then he can do that again for her with languages he doesn't even know. The languages that she is aware of because of her incredible memory and personality. I liked the way this book integrated fantasy into the mystery setting. fantasy is very important. His magical powers of recall are done in a very specific way. Everything is formulated. There's reasons for why the magic works the way that it does. The Sherlock character, without her disabilities, wouldn't be able to do the magic in the way that she does. It's very well thought out. The mystery is thought out well, but it's also fairly predictable. It's an enjoyable experience, but you kind of guess where it's going to go. It's not something that's super shocking, but it's well done and each piece makes sense as you go along the journey. This magic land that you're a part of makes sense. It's very well written. The epic fantasy and the scope of the Leviathans is very compelling, and it makes you care for the people that are involved. Even though you are more of a contained story, you're dealing with the people inside. The threat of this larger creature outside makes the entire experience more believable, and you buy it in more. It's a book series that I think is a good book for a first book. I'm excited where it's going to go because there's a lot of compelling aspects and the good outweighs the bad significantly.
So, what would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10?
Um 7.5 is probably around where I would put it.
Okay.
Very solid book, good mystery. I really like the characters, especially the Sherlock character. It's good and it has room for improvements because there are some weaknesses, like being able to kind of tell where the mystery is going to go. Um, the side characters that aren't these main two are a little shallow. There's a couple little weaknesses there that drag it down that he can address for the next book and make something that's truly great.
Is there any big mysteries at the moment?
This is a fairly self-contained story. So most of the mysteries of this book are taken care of in this book. You have some mysteries about like what actually happened to the Sherlock character, what's the magic, like what did she actually go through? You don't know that completely. Um how is the king of the area involved? What is her position in the court? Like there's a couple of different mysteries there, but mostly it is self-contained to the story.
Okay. So, what is your faith level in the second book being able to deliver?
Pretty high, actually.
Okay.
He has a good he's built up the characters well, and I think writing allows you to write better so he can spend a little bit more time on some of the side characters for whatever mystery he does next and have those be a little bit more elevated, and then you have a more compelling full narrative.
Oh,
Yeah, it's one that I would recommend to you, just knowing you like mystery. I think it would be worth your time. I think you would enjoy it even if you do guess where it's going to go.
fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway, that is the Tainted Cup. Let's talk about the next thing, Lies of P. I like Bloodborne better than this game. Um, Bloodborne is just fun, but I think Lies of P is maybe the best Souls like as far as design goes. And the reason that I think that is because it has everything. You have the blocking aspect and the timing of the blocking aspect, like something of Sekiro. You have the health gets diminished. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want one clarifying question. Are you
Yes.
counting Souls games as Souls likes?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
You have the aspect of your health gets lower and then you attack and your health comes back like you do with Bloodborne, with the really cool caveat of having to block to get this effect. So with Bloodborne, you just kind of attack. And this one, it requires more skill because you have to be in front of them and you have to block to be able to get the health back. It has the perfect parrying. It has dodging, so you both block you have the perfect block, and you have the dodging, and it's all required. The dodging is very smooth, like it is with Bloodborne. I feel like Dark Souls isn't quite as smooth that way. It still works, like you learn the timing, but it's not quite as smooth. This one is very smooth. You have character growth. You actually have like a skill tree in this one, which is very cool. You have a more filled out story where you're not just reading through dusty books to figure out what is actually going on. There is a
Still have
story
to do
there.
that.
Um, you have you just like have all the aspects of a really good Souls like all in one platform. And then something that I think was very smart when they designed the game is you have your healing capabilities like most of these games have. You have some health pack that you can use. When you run out of health packs, you can attack and you can earn yourself another health pack. So it requires you to be one careful and two
Really?
consistently attacking, which is a really it's a smart character. It's a smart choice. You have a very interesting narrative going on. You have a very interesting land. You have the atmosphere of something like a Bloodborne. You have all of these different aspects that are done extremely well in one game. So while I like Bloodborne better, I've often said, why read Tolstoy when people read Tolstoy and then they improve on Tolstoy? I still kind of believe that. I think
What?
that Tolstoy is a great author. He's a very famous author. I think you improve on science. So somebody creates a phone and then they create an iPhone, like science just improves. And I think writing is a form of science. So people learn from great writers and then they improve on that great writing and make things even better. People disagree with me on that, but that's kind of what I think.
That's because you're Russian.
With Lies of P, I think they took all of these different Souls likes, they took a lot of the ideas, they combined them together, and the combination is a better implementation of the formula than what has been done before. I
So why do
actually
you
think
like
it's my
Bloodborne
best.
better?
I just have the most fun with it, and it's the first one that really grabbed me. The world grabbed me, the atmosphere grabbed me, and honestly, I just grasped it better. With Bloodborne, it's a very fluid game, like, and everything is dodging. You're just dodge, 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 dodge. You really don't have to parry that much. You you're saying you have to. I had to parry the what's her name, um, the boss in the DLC, the girl Maria. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Anyway, I had to parry Maria. Um, and I fought those three bosses that you beat for me the first time, and they help if you parry them, but you don't have to parry them. That is the only time that I felt like I had to parry in the entire game. Everything else I
Okay.
could just dodge.
Other than Sekiro, there is no Souls game where you have to anything.
Yeah. And with this one, I do think it requires some parrying to make it through. Are you just dodging stuff?
Dodging and blocking.
Okay.
I don't
Well, then
parry ever.
then I just suck because I feel like I have to parry. I This game is beating my trash. Like it's
Blocking is so
killing me.
overpowered in this game.
You think so?
Yeah. So I think this falls into the trap of a Dark Souls, of an
Okay.
Elden Ring,
Okay.
where you are right. You have all the different things available to you. I think you have all the things available to you in Bloodborne 2, save for blocking.
Okay.
It is the only one that says, well, you just can't block. And if you use the shield in that game, it makes fun of you. But in Lies of P, it has, well, you can do this, and you can do that, and you can do that. But if you do this, it's the way we intend you to play it, and it's the best way to play it, and it's significantly easier, and it's just the best way to play the game, right?
Which
So
is
Dark
blocking.
Souls does that too, where it's like you can dodge and you can parry, but if you just get a big shield and a pointy stick, that is the easiest, best way to play this game.
That is a problem with Dark Souls for sure. Yes.
And in Elden Ring, it's the same way. It's like you can do this and you can do that, but if you get a big shield and a pointy stick, it's the best way to play this game. It's actually magic in that game, but that one's magic is so overpowered that real Souls fans don't even call that playing. But like the
Yeah.
next best thing is big shield, pointy stick.
Yeah.
This is the same. It's like, yeah, you can parry, but if you block and dodge, it's just best. It is just objectively the best. Have you fought the White Lady yet? I don't think you have.
No. No.
Okay. That is my biggest argument for it's just best to block a dodge.
It's because of her.
Yeah.
Okay. So considering what I just said, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm playing it wrong because I am getting my ass kicked. Is where would you rate this in the
Second
Souls
best.
like games? Second best? Okay.
Yeah. I think objectively Bloodborne is better. It's
Okay.
it's level design, right? Like let's pull them apart. Level
Yeah,
design.
yeah. What was that? Sorry.
Level design,
I think it's there's
Bloodborne.
some it's
I
fairly
think it's
comparable.
heavily
Yeah.
Bloodborne is
Really?
better. I think there are moments, right, in Lies of P that have some really cool level design aspects,
Yeah.
but it also does the thing in Lies of P that Dark Souls does, where you loop back and you're like, "Oh, I just discovered a shortcut,"
Yeah.
and then it immediately null and voids the shortcut, so you never use it.
Because you never go back to that area anyway. You're just going forward.
You're just going forward. It's linear, but like you discover a shortcut and then you immediately go to the next turn with zero enemies between you and them and discover the next resting point.
Oh, I see. I see what
Right?
you're saying.
So Lies of P does that. Whereas in Bloodborne, you're like that first one up on top of the ladder. You loop back to it and you're like, oh my gosh, thank you. I don't have to go through all that crap again. I love you. You're so great, right? And then
Yeah.
you use that point to go off and go fight the next section,
Yes.
right? It's so clever in its level design and the way that it's so intricate and not just that base aspect where you're like, this level is cool. The whole world and the way it connects is cool, right? So
That's a fair point. That's a good point.
level design on
Because
a
this one
grander
does
scale,
definitely do more of the Dark Souls aspect
yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
For
and
sure.
it's not a bad thing. It's just like I think the Bloodborne way of doing it is super cool, right? And the levels themselves, right? If you want to talk about levels, yeah, they're fairly comparable. But in level design and the way it all connects, Bloodborne is clearly better,
Okay.
right? Aesthetic wise, right? So if we don't look at like graphics and textures and things, but like the environment, Bloodborne is cooler,
Oh, I think those are fairly
very
comparable. I
cool.
think
I think
very comparable.
if you take into the factor of like Bloodborne's an older game and has less good textures, like Lies of P is a prettier game.
It is a prettier game, but they both, I feel like aesthetic wise and atmosphere wise, that the Lies of P is pretty close. Like pretty
It
close.
kind of, but Lies of P is too bright.
Okay.
Like it gives you a
Uh,
lantern that you never have to use in Lies of P.
do you use the lantern really in Bloodborne?
Yeah, it makes all the difference in the world,
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. That's a good point. That's a
right?
good point.
When you can buy the
I
lantern that
never
you
use the
put on your
lantern.
hip, oh my gosh,
It
it's
makes a big
great,
difference.
right? So the atmosphere, right? Like Lies of P should be darker. Um,
The dark could make a big difference. That's a good point.
yeah. Story wise, right? Like in both of them, you have to read item descriptions to get full stories.
You get full,
Both of
but you
them,
actually get like a story
you get
with
a story. Lies
Liza
of
P.
P,
That's actually a fairly compelling story. Like I like the story.
me too. Yeah, but it's also
Yeah.
kind of a ripoff of the original Pinocchio, so don't give the writers too full of credit there. Uh, but it's still very good. It's still absolutely.
Yeah.
I would give Liza P the touch there,
Story aspect.
right? But like gameplay elements, Bloodborne. Uniqueness, Bloodborne. Uh, right? We talked about the ability to attack and gain your blood back.
Mhm.
In Bloodborne, there's an explanation for it. While I think that this one is cool for doing a similar thing, there's not really like an explanation for it.
I didn't know there was an explanation in Bloodborne. What is that?
You're taking the blood from what you're killing. The blood is what heals you. You're attacking, you're getting blood on you and in you, and you're regaining. Like,
Well, you're Bloodborne. Yeah,
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 it's
yeah.
blood.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Um,
With this one, it's just the aspect of the combat, which I actually maybe I'm playing it wrong, but it does seem like the combat technicality is better in Lies of P.
no.
Is
The fact that you can like change your weapons in Bloodborne, they all have like two modes, is so cool.
the two modes is very cool.
Right? You get the gun to parry, which is just awesome. Uh, right? Like I very much prefer the Bloodborne way of doing it, save for the one aspect you mentioned where you can recharge your final health flask. I
Very
think is
cool.
brilliant because you
Me
go
too.
into every fight knowing it's not quite over yet.
Yeah.
Whereas if I go to Bloodborne and I poke my head around a corner, knowing that there's a safe point I just haven't hit yet, and I get ambushed, I'm like, oh, it's over. I'm not gonna win
Yeah.
this.
It
Whereas
makes
in
you
Liza P, I'm like,
fighting.
oh man, if I can hold out and I can get just enough hits in, I can get a health. Like I think that is so important. That is so good.
I agree.
Um,
Completely.
yeah, but Liza P is my second favorite Souls like.
Okay. That's a high
That
praise.
one's it is so good. It is so clearly better than Dark Souls. All three of them.
Yes,
That's not even
absolutely.
close. Uh, you could make arguments of Elden Ring and Sekiro, and what was I thinking of? I was going to say something else. Uh, anyway, you can make those arguments, but I would argue depends on your personal aesthetic wise,
Okay.
right? Like it depends. Like if you like magic and fantasy and whatever, then Elden Ring's probably your favorite. If you like Japanese stuff and parrying, Sekiro's probably your favorite.
I
Uh,
think I partly just suck at the whole pairing thing. Like, I know this is a separate game, but Guitar Hero is very rhythm based. Like, you're pressing the buttons, you're going with the rhythm. And I suck at that. Like, I'm terrible. Genuinely terrible. I'm the worst person at Guitar Hero that you have ever met in your entire life, period. I'm horrible. And Sekiro kind of feels like a rhythm game, but with combat. That's kind of what it feels like to me. And I am terrible at it. Um, So I don't I'm so bad at it. I don't know if the hitboxes are off like I think they are,
they're not.
or if it's just
You
if I'm just terrible.
egregiously overestimate how bad the hitboxes are.
But with Lies of P, I don't feel like even when I'm doing the perfect pairing thing, which isn't the exact same as Sekiro, but there's a level there. I feel like it's always fair even when I miss it. I don't feel like I just got hit out of absolutely nowhere when I'm completely behind you and then you like chopped and hit me anyway. It seems ridiculous. Um, I feel like
Okay,
everything is fair in Lies of P, along with the timing. Go ahead.
what about from the other perspective?
What do you mean?
Your hitbox. How many times in Lies of P have you said, dang, that should have hit me?
Never.
All
I've
the
never had
time.
that happen. Really?
All of the time. It is
I've
so
never had that happen.
egregiously bad. Did you
Really?
fight the big Titan robot thing in the factory?
Yeah.
Its hitbox on you is so ridiculously favoring you. It's ridiculous. You honestly didn't notice that.
No. I really felt like I had plenty of space. You would do the stomping thing. I would walk all the way back. Cool. When they did the spinny arm things, I was in the middle. cool. Like I really didn't think the hitbox. I was so far away from wherever they would hit me. So far away.
Okay. Maybe you were just a lot better at that fight than I was then. Because, like, there was a number of times where I was like, that should have hit me. That should
Oh,
have hit
okay.
me. That should have hit me. I did not dodge that in time. There's no way. And not just that fight, and like most of the fights, I feel that way.
Hmm. The only fight where I felt that way is the mini boss that's in the basement. I can't remember his name. The Survivor, I think is what it's called. Did you do that one?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, it's a guy who's going crazy in the bottom who has to like prove himself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's the only one where I felt that way.
yeah. I feel that way all of the time.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
get that we have different play styles, and my play style is very much to get very close to being hit, and your play style is very much like keep the hitting away from me as far as possible. And that kind of can create that difference of feeling. But like in Sekiro, I admit there are times where you're like, I should have hit him. But there's not many times where I feel like I got hit out of nowhere or whatever. Whereas in
Oh, I
Liza
felt like
P, where I'm
oh,
cutting it so close all the time, there's so many times where it's like, I just got out of that. I just got out of that. There was one time in Liza P where I clipped through the floor and the floor blocked for me on something
really?
I didn't see.
Oh, that's funny.
Right? Like, I get that that was a glitch and not just like poor hitbox, but gotta wonder, like, how many times is this favoring me as a player, right? Um, which goes to my next really high point with Liza P is it's a
Yeah,
lot more approachable in that I don't feel like it's just impossibly difficult at any point in time,
I agree.
right? Like you are stuck on this boss right now, right?
I
The
am super
church
stuck.
dude guy. Do you feel like it's unfair? Do you feel like it's
No,
just
everything
egregious, or is it
feels
just such a fun challenge?
yeah, everything feels super fair in this game. Everything feels fair. I don't ever feel like I'm getting. I don't feel like there's anything where I've felt like I'm just kind of cheesing it that I can think of. And I don't feel like the bosses are ever cheesing it. Like everything feels skill. When I die, I'm like, I didn't time that right. Dang it. That's my bad. Let's do it again. Yeah. Like I feel
I
like I genuinely suck because I suck and not because the game is unfair.
I agree with you completely, 100%. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Just in measures of quality, right? I just think that Bloodborne is so clearly superior. And yes, I am far, far biased because Bloodborne is my number one all-time favorite game. So of course I see that. Um, but you're absolutely right about everything you're saying. It's a fair game. It's a fun game. I never feel like I cheese anything in Liza P. There was a couple of fights in Bloodborne where you kind of cheese it.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, I don't count that the same as like getting away with a poor hitbox thing. Because like in Liza P, it's not like, oh, I found this weakness in the thing. It was like 9 times out of 10, this hit me, but this time it didn't.
Okay.
That's what I mean by being that close. Is like I feel like I get away with some stuff in Liza P that I wouldn't get away with in other
In
games.
Bloodborne.
Um,
Okay. Very cool. Very
what
cool.
are you playing Liza P on?
Playing what?
What are you playing it on?
PC.
Okay, your main PC or laptop?
Main PC.
Okay, your main PC, big OLED, glorious
Yeah.
screen. It looks so much better on that. Honestly, okay, your main PC
Okay. It looks gorgeous. Yeah.
is your build. What weapon are you using?
It's a dex build, and I combined the axe that you find at the right before
Factory.
the yeah, yeah, yeah. the axe handle with the original dexterity blade. That's what I'm using right now.
Okay. Do you use any elements?
Sometimes I'll throw the electricity bottle things, but no, that's about it.
Okay.
Do you?
Here's my advice to you. I'm doing an all elemental build this time.
Oh,
So,
cool.
for our listeners, I have played Liza P once ish before, never completed it. In my first playthrough, I almost finished part one. In this playthrough, I just finished part one, which is the game that I talked about in our previous episode, the one that I played all day yesterday. Literally all day. I didn't do anything but play Liza P. My friends got on Hell Let Loose, and I stayed playing Liza P. That's how much fun I was having. But I surpassed my original self in one playthrough, and uh, or in one sitting, and I'm now at the end of part one. Uh, this time I'm doing an all elemental build. Uh, for your fight that you are on, my advice to you is start using fire.
Okay. Helps a little bit.
It's a lot.
Okay.
That boss is very weak to fire. And since I have the fire sword, the dagger, as I've kicked its trash, man.
You just tore it apart.
Uh-huh.
I'll have to do that because I am so stuck. Like I'm getting my ass handed to me.
Blocking and fire. Like you have the ability to, with your weapon, infuse it with fire. That's what I would do, so you still have your high damage output.
Yeah.
I wouldn't switch to the fire dagger like I was using.
Okay. So are you doing a build with the basically arcane stat in
Mm-hmm.
this one? Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So you're
I've
going
put
full arcane.
I've put points into health points, carrying weight, stamina, and the arcane. I've put
Okay.
nothing into technique or motility.
Nothing into tech or motivation or whatever it's called.
Yeah, nothing. So
Okay.
this is not
Do
my.
you think do you think it's better this time? Like your build is better this time than the other
Oh,
times?
absolutely, not even close.
Okay.
Yeah, because the elements all use the same build-up. I'm using two weapons. I'm using the electrical thing that you buy from the merchant,
Yeah.
and that destroys dolls. And I'm
Okay.
using the fire dagger, which destroys everything else.
So you just wreck them.
Yeah, I
You
have
wreck
two
everything.
plus six weapons currently,
Wow.
and I only have to use one skill point to get them both better.
That's cool. That's a good point.
So, like I told you, the Mad Clown is the one that my previous game run through I was stuck on.
Yeah.
That was just a dex build. Fair warning.
And
Fair,
you
fair
got
warning
wrecked?
for you get to him. I still stuck on it on that playthrough. I haven't gone back to it.
Oh, you're not there yet?
And on my first playthrough, I got to the Mad
Oh,
Clown
yeah, yeah.
and I could not beat it. So I stopped playing the game.
Because you were that stuck.
I started playing again yesterday,
Yeah.
got to that point, and I was like, oh, yes, I remember now. This is where I was. And it was still very frustrating and a very difficult boss for me. Hopefully, you don't have as big of a challenge with it as I did. I've told you this. I think that, like, I'm not better than you. I think that just like the way we play favors different bosses versus other ones. So, like, my play style helped beat the cathedral guy, and you seem to be struggling with it. But you're probably going to get to the Mad Clown and go, why did Josh struggle with this so much? That was so easy. It took me 2 tries, just like Father Gascoigne, you little wad, you know? Like, but man, I'm so glad I'm beyond that point. So,
How many times
oh,
did you fight him this time?
8, 9.
8? Okay. That's not bad. I have I've fought this last guy so many times. I don't even know how many times. Like so many times.
Yeah. Try using fire. I bet you're going to just like wipe the floor with them and go, oh, why was I struggling with that so hard before?
and then I'll change my whole build to be a arcane build.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, with that, let's go to our final topic. The first season of From. I think this show is great. I don't like it as much as you. That doesn't mean it's not great. I do think the two Fillion shows that we both like. You like the one a lot. Your favorite one,
Haunting of Hill House.
Flanagan. Yeah, Haunting of Hill House, and the one that I love that I don't know I can't think of right now. Um, I think both of those are better, but that doesn't mean this isn't great because I think it is. The writing is very good. The mysteries are extremely compelling. The horror aspects are very well done, especially the part where they're in the communal house and the guy is consistently talking to that girl outside and he lets her in. The aspect of everybody just going along with their party while there's a monster inside the house was so good. Them switching sweaters and having her with that yellow sweater when she dies and he finds her in the room and that's a little bit of a trap. So good. Absolutely excellent. This town and everybody is finally feeling calm, and then the madness starts to come. And the madness is coming from multiple different angles. And these voices that are talking to people and driving them crazy and driving them to kill other people. The scene where the mom is shooting up the town and he has to shoot her because she's hearing the voices is fantastic. The question of did we die in the RV? Is this all a dream? Is this a nightmare? Are we in hell? Is so well thought out and discovered in this show. There are a lot of really, really, really good aspects in the show. Um, yeah, it's really good. It's very well done. My one thing that I don't there's a couple things that are not the best, but the one worth talking about is the kid. I don't actually think he's a very good actor. I think he takes it down some, and I can't tell if it's the writing or his acting, but he feels like he's younger than he is. It feels like this is written for like a 6-year old, but he's 10, and it doesn't match the kid, in my opinion. And that might be the way he acts it, or that might be the writing, and I can't tell.
I think that's just you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't feel
I
that way at all?
No. I
Okay.
agree. He's not the best actor, but I don't think he pulls it down at all. Um, his relationship with the creepy guy, so intriguing.
It's
It is
very intriguing.
so good.
And
And like the
the
fact that
creepy guy in general is just very intriguing.
the fact that he got stuck in this town at the age where this kid is, right? And they bond because they communicate similarly. I definitely don't think it's the writing. Um, I think that this I think the kid is just probably not the best actor, but I still think he's like an above average kid actor.
Okay.
Especially given the fact that he is in a horror town playing a child, right? Like not too easy to like that's a difficult thing to tackle, and I think he's doing a fairly good job with it. Um, my issues with season one, you haven't even brought up, so that's
What
great.
were they? Because I had a few other minor things, but most of them are minor. Some of the mysteries, I mean, they're mysteries, so I can't really have a nitpick towards them because they're mysteries and I don't have the answers yet. Um, I mean, I think everyone else does a fine to good job with the acting. Like the mom to me is fine. She's passable. She's good enough. She's not great. The daughter I think is very good. Um, the main sheriff guy does a really good job. The one of the standouts is the priest. I think the priest does a fantastic job. The tech billionaire guy is fine. He's passable. Like
Oh,
it's a range.
I think he absolutely nails the tech billionaire thing.
Oh, really? I feel like sometimes he's too unnatural.
I think he 100% is natural.
Okay.
I that is the reaction of somebody who used to get high all the time
Oh, I
and found
agree.
a place in this world. Like,
I think he does a good job with that first section. It's actually later in the like second half of the show where I think
yeah,
he's fine.
he does a great job with his role in accepting that this is real, or at least
Mhm.
that the experience is real, and that it's not a get out game, and that it's not a big elaborate trap or whatever, and all this kinds of stuff. Uh, so season one ends with the bus arriving.
Yes,
How'd you feel about that?
it's fine. It was a fine ending. I didn't really have a problem with it. It was fine.
It was not like a holy crap, what are they going to do about this now moment.
No, not for me. The holy crap moment from the biggest holy crap was when they got up to the top of the hill and there was a lighthouse there. I was like, what the hell? Why is there a lighthouse? That is like a lighthouse. That's not
What
a
about when he
someone
was
made that.
talking on the radio?
I know. That was also a what the hell. That was a what the hell moment. Both of those were what the hell. When she goes through the floor and he's just in that space and there's these drawings and this is the place where they sleep. That was a what the hell moment. The spiders biting his skin was like, oh, no, didn't like that. Um, there were some good what the hell moments. The bus was fine. Like it was fine.
Okay. I agree with you. It wasn't like the biggest, like, shocking thing. But I do think it was like, holy crap, this is going to add a whole nother element to season two.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it
So
was.
my issue with season one was the lack of communication. That's what really bothered me,
Okay.
specifically the lighthouse. Like, why did the sheriff not mention the lighthouse when he got back to anybody? Why was he not like, there's a freaking lighthouse in the middle of a
He,
forest?
he hasn't gotten back yet.
Yes, he did.
He literally went through the tree in the last episode, and then he's like in a chimney thing, and that's where they end his character arc for season one.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, they
Okay.
if he doesn't say there's a freaking lighthouse in season two, that's stupid. But we're not there yet.
Okay. Sorry about that.
It's
But like,
okay.
they've established with the sister girl who killed her brother that like people have weird connections to this world, this town,
Yeah, and the
and yet
white
nobody
boy
talks to
thing.
each other. Nobody's like, "Hey, I had this super weird dream last night that felt kind of real and kind of about this place." And even she's not like, "Hey, I'm hearing voices telling me this thing." And right, like,
Yeah, she doesn't even tell her brother that this is going on.
yeah,
They
like
say that you're
there's
going to die if I don't get rid of these people. Something.
yeah, and
Fair
like
enough.
she handles it fair, but after she's caught, right? The fact that the entire town wouldn't be like, okay, you hear voices. It's a proven fact that you hear voices and that the place is communicating with you. Maybe it's communicating with other people too. And so when Tech Guy starts experiencing these symbol things, why are they all not just like, what the heck? Like, does anybody else see the symbol? What's going on with this symbol? Where is this symbol at? Creepy guy, you've seen this symbol before. Tell me about this symbol. Mom
More
chick, you've
communication
seen
there.
this symbol. Uh, like, all the things that are going on, and nobody is talking to anybody else about them. That is my big pet peeve with season one. Is it's like, communicating about these things is not going to take away from the mystery. It's not going to suddenly, like, sometimes a character has such an important piece that it's like, yeah, if they connected that, it would give everything away.
Yeah.
But all these characters have such tiny little pieces of
And they
whatever
don't
this puzzle is,
come together.
and none of them do it. And the tech guy even has a line, I think it's in season 2, where he was like, I feel like I'm staring at a puzzle, but I don't have all the pieces and there's nothing to measure it to, and I don't have edges or corner pieces. It's like, maybe you should go talk to some
Smart
people about
people.
what the freak is going on. Maybe, huh? Ever think of that one? Genius? I'm Mr. Genius Man, but I'm not going to talk to anybody because they're going to think I'm crazy. Like, holy crap.
That's a good
Freaking
point.
communicate. Talk about, like, I honestly feel like at the end of season 1, even if everybody laid everything out on the table, we would still have no idea what the freak is going on.
No, you wouldn't.
But like,
You'd have no
they
clue.
don't even communicate effectively about like where they were before they got here. Like, there was a point where the mom in season 1 was questioning things like, how'd you get into town? Where were you before that? Because I started in my mind when she started asking those questions of like, maybe this place is not like random in that where on the map it goes. Maybe it's random and like it takes people who are trying to escape from something. Or maybe it's picking up people who have certain personality traits or elements, or like they're trying to get somewhere or do something, right?
Yeah.
Where were you? Why were you going? What were you know? I thought that's where it was gonna go, and they straight up just like don't do that at all. Like, that was my problem with season 1, but I still absolutely love season 1. It is so freaking good. I'm so intrigued into the mystery. I'm so invested in it. I absolutely wanted to know what was going to happen in season 2. You obviously don't care about the bus, but for me, I was like, who's on this bus? And what the freak are they going to do about it? And I'm super interested because creepy guy who's been here for forever is saying things like, last time this happened, everyone died.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you have the wife finding her bracelet that she gave to her husband.
Fascinating.
So is
That's
this like
so
a
interesting.
time loop? Are they going through it multiple times? Is it connected? Like, I'm so fascinated. I'm so curious as to why you say, like, Midnight Mass and Haunting of Hill House are clearly better, right? When those are both one season shows, and this has built like such great content for a season to build another one, and like,
For me, Midnight Mass, both of those shows really didn't have very many weaknesses. They were just good. Where this one did have some weaknesses, it had some acting that I thought was a little bit below par. Um, and some of the issues that you brought up that are very, very good points. Where those shows didn't. That doesn't. I think those shows are like upper echelon, best of the best kind of shows. Where this is just a very, very, very good, very competent show. Or just different levels of show. If that does that make sense?
I get what you're trying to say. My question is like, was it your expectations though?
It could have
Was it
possibly
because of
been, yes.
my such glowing excitement that you were just
There's a
expecting
possibility that
more?
it was that, and just how many times I've heard about this show. But these are like minute um minute issues. This is still a very great show. Like, this is a great show, even with these minute problems. Minute.
Yeah, because like for me, I went into this completely blind. I'd only heard about it once before. It was
Okay.
recommended, like it was like a common thing. Didn't even know the show was a thing. Got put on my list because of who recommended it. I kind of put it towards the end of my list. And then we were talking about shows to watch, and I was like, I guess this one. Why not this one? I've kind of been going through the horror stuff lately. Let's give this one a shot. Why
Let's give it
not?
a shot.
And then I was like, holy crap, this is so good.
Interesting.
Or
Yeah.
as you probably expected, good. So maybe that's the problem. Maybe I was just overreacting to it because I was expecting nothing,
It's possible,
and it
man.
surprised me so bad. But like, and to be fair, I want to be clear. Like, this is still to be determined for me because I truly don't know how they're gonna land on some of these
I
mysteries.
what after watching season 1, my thought was even without anything that you said, this is absolutely going to be a loss. There's no way they're pulling this off. If they do, I will be very pleasantly surprised, but I don't think it will be pulled off. I don't. But I'm hoping. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping they can.
I would say my hope level for this is about the same as Severance.
Okay. Okay. My hope level would have been about the same as Severance until they actually gave me an answer that I was really happy for Cold Harbor and the numbers. And now my hope level for Severance is significantly higher. Like
I
that,
still have a lot of doubts. I'm with you. I agree with you. This one is slightly below Severance now because the numbers was so well explained. Cold Harbor wasn't really well that explained, so
the numbers
the
aspect of it is what
numbers
I'm talking
aspect was
about.
so clear. Like that's a great explanation. Like I said, I called it from episode 1, but
It
so my
works and it works
Severance
well.
Severance is here, From is here,
Okay, fair
right?
enough. So season 2 didn't drop it for you. It still feels compelling
There are things that they do in season 2 that I absolutely
that you absolutely love.
love.
Okay.
I don't want to say
Okay.
too much more than that because I already said the other thing and it was
I
dumb
will.
of
I'm
me.
watching season 2 this week because I am very interested and hopeful. I hope they can pull it off. The lighthouse thing was an absolute what the hell. Like I can't even come up with a theory on why there's a freaking lighthouse in the woods. I don't know. And then him possibly talking to his dead wife or his dead wife talking to her, very interesting. Like there's just a lot of questions that are interesting.
There's a ton that's really interesting and there's
Yeah.
more of it. They start explaining a little bit, but not
Okay.
a lot. So I'm still
Okay.
very confused about the town and everything.
Okay.
But they
Hopefully they start.
do answer if that's actually the wife or not.
Oh, they do. Cool.
They do.
That's cool. The one other thing that's like a small thing, but they had the radio, the antenna that they were putting up on the roof, and they're like, that thing's gonna fly right off. And I was sitting there like, you have nails. What are you doing? Nail it
Now,
into the
my
roof.
big problem with the radio thing was it wasn't going to fly off. My big problem with the radio thing is that they set it up outside when they needed the power from inside. So that was
Yeah.
only done for the dramatic effect of the storm. And any
Yep.
practical person would have installed it inside and been like, ooh, a storm.
Yep. I thought that too. But like, if you were gonna put it outside, bracket it to the roof. What are you doing? That's stupid.
They did.
Oh, I didn't
They
think they
showed
did.
them nailing it to the roof.
Oh, they did. Okay, I didn't. I missed that part then because I
Yeah,
was
no.
like, nail it through. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, they put it up. They established it. The fact that it flew off the roof was like a weird thing. But yeah, stuff starts to happen in season 2. And it's so good. It is so so good.
I'm
So
excited. Is season 2 better than season 1? Just as good? Where would you mark it?
I would say not as good as season 1.
Okay.
But to be fair, season 1 was asking all the questions, and that is the exciting part of these kinds of shows.
Yeah.
Um,
And season 2 is answering and asking some more, I'm assuming. All
yeah.
right.
So establishing is just much more exciting. So with
I
season 1,
agree.
I was like, next episode, next episode, next episode, next episode. And I was still that way with season 2, just not as much. Like, I said this, I don't think it recorded last time, but like I had to force myself to stop watching after season 1 because I thought we were going to talk about it. I just started season 3 I'm like one episode in maybe, and I'm like, I'll get to it.
Okay, it's not as gripping. Was season 2 that way for you too? Like I have to watch the next one, or
Oh, I
no?
watched all of season 2 in a night. We wrapped up
Oh,
recording, and I jumped onto my TV, and I was eating food and watching season 2, and then I took a little nap, and then I finished season 2.
that's cool, man. That's cool. I'm gonna dig through it. Well, guys, if you haven't seen From, it is absolutely worth watching. If you like horror, mystery, any of that kind of stuff, it's a worthwhile show. You guys will like it. I think that that's our episode. We appreciate you all watching, tuning in. If you have anything that we can do better, let us know. We're grateful for you. Hope you have a good week. See you guys.
Bye.